watching the Jaxxon podcast.
Woo! Jaxxon.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest, the man himself, Johnny Football, a legend. And now since the Netflix documentary just came out, we're getting the exclusive look behind the scenes of what he thought about the documentary, how he lived his life, and how he became Johnny Football. A friend of mine, always a stand-up guy, one of a kind. Very, very excited to have you here.
Definitely been friends for some years now. It's good to see you, baby.
The legend. Most people don't realize, you've been doing this a long time. And I feel like there's a lot of people that you're friends with. Your network's very diverse. And so I think as people started to watch the documentary, they realized, oh man, he really was Johnny Football. Like you were like the definition of football. So many people loved you and like supported you when you were at the height of the game. I think the community around you is pretty intense. And I'm glad that the documentary did a good job at showing that. Like there's a reason why you were at the height. You were at the height. You had the best people in the world around you.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I think during my time when I was coming up too, which, we didn't touch on this as much in the doc as I would have liked to, but social media was just changing so much whenever I was, my Heisman season into that next year. I think Twitter had just started, Instagram had just started. So, being able to start that network from the time I was at A&M made it really, really crazy to see, playing football for the next 3 years, really, who got to be in my circle, what circles I got to be in. I feel very fortunate in that. I got to meet some real all-stars, some real legends, and, people who I can still to this day call a friend.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the documentary, you're kind of like talking to people in the audience. You're at some sort of an award ceremony. Is it like, what was it for, a new field or something?
Hall of Fame.
Oh, it was for the Hall of Fame for Texas A&M?
Correct.
Obviously, you should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Glad to see you in there. And you were with Mike Evans at that ceremony?
Yep.
Was he already in it or no? Same
we
thing?
we got inducted at the same time, which was couldn't be cooler. You come into college at the same time, before you guys both turn 30, you're sitting there getting inducted in the Hall of Fame of your school, place that you love, coming in with two of my brothers. I had another offensive lineman that came in with me as well. So, cool day for all of us to be able to,
Yeah, that was your go-to guy. Like when you guys were just dominating.
I was the best. I mean, I think our first year, what a lot of people didn't get to know was, we played on the scout team together when we redshirted. So my first year at Texas A&M, 2011, neither one of us played. We would just practice throughout the season. And we were just dominating our defense, who was, our starters, in practice. Mike was just too big. They couldn't really guard him. They had to they took my red jersey off so they couldn't hit me in practice and put a black one on me so they could light me up in practice after a while, because I think they got so frustrated. But, we got to go through those funny years of like, oh, damn, we're really starting to get good. We're really starting to figure out this football thing. And then, the 2012 season happens and you get to do it in the SEC in front of hundreds of thousands of people.
Unreal. And everybody knows SEC is where the ball is.
That's the best.
That's the best of the best in college football. I don't think a lot of people actually give him enough credit too that year, because you guys were balling out together and he was catching everything you threw at him.
Yeah, for 2 years. I mean, he was pretty much unstoppable for the SEC. He had a couple down games here and there, but not very many. He had two 230-yard plus receiving games in that second season that were just, if you watched it in person, were just unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to like unpack here, right? Because you're such a prolific name, and I got to live it a little bit with you. When you were coming into the league in the NFL, you were always going out in Hollywood, and I was with you, and we'd go out and I'd see the superstars around you, and I'd see the celebrities, and I saw the power that you had. You had the city on tap. Yeah. Everybody wanted to be around you. Everybody wanted to be at the table with you. I remember pulling up to the club with you. Never had seen so many paparazzi cameras in my life. And I'd pulled up to the club before with Bieber and other people, and I'm like, dude, this guy's like the biggest superstar I've ever seen.
Oh, we had some rock star status there in the Hollywood Hills for a little bit.
You were living a different life though.
Yeah, I think it gets addicting when you live that life, when you're, chasing that fame and being, there's something that gets in your head that, makes you feel like that's what you want. That's what you need to feel alive, to feel a buzz. So, those times when we would go out and we would do that, you do feel alive when you walk out and people are taking your picture walking into places. It's fanfare, it's nuts. And, for a couple of years there, we ran around LA and ran around Sunset doing that pretty frequently, to the point of where it, just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, I remember one of my favorite stories with you before we kind of dive into the documentary and football and your life is you came down here during COVID. I believe it was a lockdown. We went to Nobu, ripped it up. It was fun. Had the time of my life. And then you were like, yeah, let's go on a boat. So we take this yacht out. We're down there by Laguna Beach in the middle of the water. We're going 50 miles an hour. And the captain's like, yo, what's going on with the boat? It started shaking. You were rocking. There was some girls on the front of the boat. And all of a sudden I hear the captain just freak out, code red, because you kicked the little knob that dropped the anchor as we were going 50 miles an hour. And so the boat almost ripped apart in the middle of the ocean. Captain's going nuts. You're like, no, don't worry. And you start to try pulling up the anchor with the chain. And the guy's like, no, you got to hit the button. It was just anarchy in the middle of the ocean.
It was. I could remember that, just seeing that if something would have caught and that chain just yanks right down the middle of the boat. And now we're sitting there floating in the middle of Laguna.
I go, man, dude, this is a Johnny football moment if I've ever seen one. And then that night you're at my house and all of a sudden I get a text from you and you're like, yo, I drove to Vegas and you're gone. You had a red Mustang and it was gone.
I did. I was in a rental red Mustang and I guess I had to get to Vegas to play some baccarat or something.
The only reason why I had known you'd left because you had like parked it in my garage and there was like a bunch of red stuff on my trash can. I was like, the guy must have hit my trash can on the way out. I was like, I don't know where he's at. But I mean, the thing about you, Johnny, that I always loved and we've always kept in contact and you've always been A1 with me is that you're such a stand-up dude. And yeah, there's a lot of people around you and you always had a unique crew around you, but you've always been a stand-up dude to the people that like treat you right. You know, like I don't drink, I don't do drugs, so it's easy for me to hang out all night and have fun with you, but you've never like done me wrong. You've never done anything mischievous like two people that are cool with you. It's like you've always been an A1 dude. And I think the documentary even shows like you are a real dude. You say what you say, you do what you do, and you are who you are. And that's kind of, I think that's kind of respectful. I think people will respect you for that always. Like you are a person of your word and you do what you do. You just live by your own rules.
Yeah, I think, luckily I was raised by two great parents who, I think brought me up the right way. It's easy to get away from that at times, but, I've always been an incredibly loyal person to the guys that treat me the right way. My dad always told me, treat people the way that you would want to be treated, treat other guys with respect, shake their hand, look them in the eye, the kind of, Southern way
Texas
that
way.
he taught me, the Texas way a little bit. And I think there was a time where I got out of my head a little bit and probably wasn't that all the time. But, for the most part, I feel like I've done a good job keeping in touch with people who have shown me nothing but love, who have done nothing but help me get through tough times in my life or tough pieces or tough places. And, I'm appreciative of that. I'm appreciative of the ride that, I got to live, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. I mean, if I wouldn't have got a chance to come out here to LA and learn some of the life lessons the hard way, I wouldn't be sitting here where I'm at today with a smile on my face.
100%. And even through it all, like after the documentary, it's good to see you're at kind of peace where you are in life and how much you have accomplished. I think no one could take away the fact that you're probably one of the greatest college football players of all time. And that's something that you get to live with forever, Yeah,
it's dope. I mean, there's so many great college athletes that come through every year. I mean, I'm still looking at guys, Reggie Bush, teams, from the early 2000s, guys from the early 2000s, 99. Like you can go back a long way in time and say there's been some great college football players. And I got them to leave a mark on the game that, sitting here 10, 11 years later still lingers and still lasts and still able to have so much support like when the doc drops. I've had more people reach out with positive messages, with, reconnecting with people I hadn't talked to in a while. And just, I think it's been nothing but good for everybody around me. And for me, especially getting a weight lifted off my shoulders a little bit.
The doc, obviously, it starts off with you talking about that ceremony at the Hall of Fame speech. Like this wasn't here when you came there. Like Texas A&M didn't have this stadium and they didn't have this reputation, and you kind of put them on the map for that in a way. Do you feel that the dynamic of the school and the appreciation you got from there is matched? Like, is that kind of what you were going at with that speech?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, utmost thankful for, with everything that's gone on. You talk about should have made money during this or an NIL or this or whatever it may have been. When it comes down to it, I got an amazing opportunity to play college football at Texas A&M. One, I didn't know if I was going to have when I was sitting in a high school classroom. And then when I got there, I fell in love with the place. I fell in love with the town, the traditions, the football, my teammates. So, I think there's been a lot painted on what I was able to help do for Texas A&M, but, there's so much that Texas A&M helped me achieve and allowed me to be able to be in the place that I'm at today. So, I think there's a mutual love and a mutual affection between both sides of that, and that's exactly how I want it to be.
And you speak of NIL money, making money. Obviously, we saw a lot of that in the documentary, and you always seem to have a lot of money on you when I was partying with you. You always seem to want to cover everybody's tab. But that was pretty nice of you as well. But going into this, do you feel like a guy like Reggie Bush, do you think NCAA not giving his, Heisman back is kind of not really the move anymore because of this new NIL deal? What really rules is he breaking in today's game? How do we go about those rules that happened when kind of those rules were established?
I know we were sitting on the bus at the Heisman this last year, and, a lot of guys have been, over the years that I've gone, just kind of chirping and talking about it, and especially talking about Reggie. I think, he's more than deserving to have been there. His college football season that year is hands down, no questions asked, the best player in the country. So it's tough. It's tough that there's a break from 2005 to 2006 or 2004 to 2006 of a Heisman Trophy winner. I know there's a sour taste in probably a lot of the guys' mouth that I've talked to at the Heisman. And then we got a little bit of an answer on it this year that, you know, if you had done something that, you know, hinders your eligibility, I guess, then until, you know, his eligibility were to get like reinstated or however it was in the past, this long, funny, kind of drawn out explanation of why, you know, they weren't going to give Reggie his Heisman back. And I think for me, it's just, you know, it's no good. It's not something that I'm happy with. I wish more than anything, you know, I think he deserves it. You know, he deserves to have that sitting at his house. He deserves to be able to look at that and feel a sense of appreciation, you know, for what he accomplished the same way that I do when I go back home and look at my trophy. So, you know, it's tough. They would have to really come after me to probably get mine for me. I know that.
Where do you keep your trophy?
My trophy's with my family in Texas.
Everybody looks at it. Everybody knows.
Pretty much the family house.
Keep it there.
Just stays there. You know, my grandma keeps it pretty safe. There's nobody, you know, coming in and out of the house too much. No, I haven't thought about selling it. I think, so one thing they do whenever you do win the trophy is you don't own it. So they don't give it to you to own. They give it to you on like a 100-year lease, 99-year lease.
Wow, why is that?
Because I think of the OJ stuff in the past and the guys in the past who have sold their trophies. So I think they, you know, from now on have made your trophy a pretty much a lease for the rest of your life, and then it transfers over to your family.
Wow, that's cool.
So it is cool.
I like that. At least you know it's going to be there for a minute.
Yeah, so it's a forever thing. I mean, if you hold it and you get a chance to pick it up and carry this thing around for a minute, you know, you get to appreciate the work of art that it really is.
In the documentary, and I think a lot of people are watching this because they finally got to see like a dope side of you of just football. Like, let's put partying aside. Let's put everything you did in life aside, all the girls, all the life, all the celebrities, all the Drake. And let's just talk about football. You were insane, right? No one could catch you. Johnny Football. What goes through your mind when a team like you guys, at the time that you guys were playing football, A&M, have to go compete against Alabama? I mean, this is like the most pinnacle of SEC teams. It's probably like the toughest team you could play in college football, and you have to go lead your guys against these dudes. Like, how do you even process that as a freshman?
Well, I think we, you know, throughout that season, you know, we didn't really know in our locker room how it was going to be. You know, there had been guys that had played in the Big 12 the year before. I had never played a game. Mike had never played a game in college football. So, I mean, I think there was, you know, a lot of just questions about how the SEC was going to be, how it was going to go for us, and if we would really be able to compete. I mean, I know my year before when I was at A&M in 2011, we were 6-6 or 7-6 in the Big 12. So now you take that record with a, you know, a new team, a little bit older, a little bit different, but then you go into the SEC. And I think, you know, in our locker room, there was a little bit of probably self-doubt at the beginning. You know, you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. And originally that year, we're supposed to play Louisiana Tech to start our season. A hurricane comes through, cancels our game. So, you know, I'm waiting my whole life pretty much to get my first chance to start, especially at Kyle Field. You know, this is it. Game gets canceled, have to wait a whole nother week, go through a whole nother week of practice. Our second game on our schedule was University of Florida. So now you're going into a SEC powerhouse school that's coming to your place in the first game that you play all season, and it didn't go very well for us. So I think, you know, as that season went on, you know, we got more confident. It was one of those things where it's like piece by piece, game by game, play by play, rep by rep, you're getting better and starting to build more confidence with the guys you have around us. Then when we came into Alabama, we were a completely different team than we were at the beginning of the season. We felt like we could play with this team. We felt like we had played, you know, teams early in the year that were equally as talented. You know, I think the LSU team from that year was out of this world. Florida team had a ton of guys who are still running around NFL fields right now. So, you know, as that progression came and as we're growing, you know, me and Mike, two young freshmen growing up through the season as it goes, creating a bond, creating, you know, signs and this and that, and the air raid system to be able to give you freedom to launch the ball wherever you want. So I think when we got to the Alabama game, I think we were a lot more comfortable and ready to go.
And you bring up a cool topic, air raid system. A lot of people on the internet talk about this air raid system. They talk about the coaches involved, Lincoln Riley, Cliff Kingsbury. They talk about the implementation of this with college quarterbacks and kind of the quarterbacks that come out of it, Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel. You know, you have Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, Kyle Murray. these guys are all guys that go on to win a Heisman, or these guys go on to lead NFL teams. What is this air raid system that everybody talks about? Like, how did it format? How does it make a quarterback successful? Like, all of you guys become successful because of the offense, I feel like.
Yeah, and I went into A&M with a different coaching staff. So we're running a more pro style, hand the ball off, long play names. You're putting your protection and telling every single player. So for example, it'll be like stack right, slot, Y move, 28, can with another play. So when you get into the air raid system, it's stop all of that. It's, we're going to have very short terms, very short words. We're going to play quick. We're going to play fast. And we're going to make it easy for the guys to be able to process, the game that's going on around you, especially if you're getting into a new system or you have a freshman that's coming in trying to learn ball. There's so many different levels and different verbiage and different styles of football that when you get into the air raid, I think you appreciate it a little bit. Everybody has their little wrinkle on what they call plays. But mine with Cliff was just so easy. We were all pretty much numbered based. So, one play would be 499, 90, 21. Like just easy.
So
it tells the lineman what to do. Yeah, if I yell 90 and throw up peace signs, we're all running down the field and we're running goes. So, we pretty much made it all through hand signals, thumbs up, peace sign, finger down, a loop on the belt or something. And you were able to play quick, you're able to play fast. And I think, Mike Leach is the guy who really brought this to, the big scene where it was really kind of starting to, go everywhere. Assistants that were coming to him from learning from him, were going to get new jobs. Then their tree is kind of spreading. So, the air raid all kind of comes from one tree and kind of trickles its way down into what we have today, which is the Lincoln Riley offense, which is the Cliff Kingsbury, which you'll see other guys around college football who are running a lot of the similar stuff. And they're taking from each other too and adding little, nuances that make these plays better. And it's been fun to see some of these college football like highlights over the past couple of years and watch really what the air raid is like transformed into compared to what, it was in 2012. There's things we wouldn't even thought about on there to run that they're running at, TCU and USC and some of these places. They're really getting after it.
So like Cliff going now to USC, coming from Arizona, going to be with Lincoln Riley this season. It's obviously his first year as like a QB offensive coordinator type of coach for USC. Obviously, he probably brings way more value than that, but everybody needs a title. What is it that you think that we would get from those two coaches being together now when you got a guy like Caleb Williams and Malachi, who are like two amazing quarterbacks? Obviously, Malachi's going to prove himself, but he's two-time Gatorade Player of the Year, and they have a good staff.
Yeah, I think they have a great quarterback room right now. I talked with Cliff quite a bit. He actually texted me about the documentary this last week and said all of his QBs were tuned in. So I'm getting a lot of love from the USC QB room, which is nice. I think more than anything, Cliff brings, a great football mind, a guy that's one of the hardest workers I've ever been around, a guy that's in the building, no matter if he's a quarterback coach, a quarterback consultant, whether he's the OC or the head coach. I've never seen him kind of shy away from any of the work or the grind that goes into being a good football coach. So, you bring those two styles of football together, you bring a guy that's really committed to making that room better. I think he'll add a lot of discipline in there to a guy in Caleb who's going to struggle coming back with a lot of media attention, with a lot of, talk and questions about, is this guy going to go back and win the Heisman again? I felt that pressure to go back to New York and be able to go win a second Heisman in a row. So having a guy like Cliff who, was able to spend some time around me, able to spend some time around Baker, a lot of like really, really good college quarterbacks who I think, Caleb is very well on his way, if not already there, to being, one of the greats.
And you talk about that struggle and pressure, Caleb has to kind of follow in that same footstep, right? He has to kind of come back and try to do it again. Same thing you kind of had to struggle with. And it's that pressure of, can I kind of live up to the hype? In the documentary, you talk about, well, if I could just do a little bit of that, I know I'm going in the draft, right? Do you just go into that second year being like, I just need to be good, somewhat decent, and I'm going to be fine? Or
I think for my mindset, my second year was I want to go win a national championship. And we had two games that year that really just like put a rein on our whole parade of getting there. We lost to Bama by 7 points, 49-42 in a great game, number 1 versus number 3 in the country, I think at the time. So that didn't really set us back too much. We still had a chance to, lose one game to Alabama, work our way through the SEC, and then maybe get to a national championship game. We had a heartbreaker against Auburn 2 weeks later. And after that, all the wind was out of our sails to be able to make it to that national championship game. Our record was pretty much, for what we wanted to do, big BCS, New Year's Bowl game or a national championship game, I felt like our chances were really, really shot. And then from there, you're kind of focusing on trying to win the rest of these games at the same time, get yourself, prepared for what's next, continue to try and work on your craft. So, I think that's the way Caleb's going to think this year. I think he's going to think, they have a sour taste in their mouth about how they went out last year. I think they're going to want to come back and try and, make a push for the national championship. And anything else that comes with that is just a bonus.
Yeah. Just goes into the game of what they have to do.
When you look at the Pac-12, you look at, who's in their conference and kind of, all this college football landscape is changing and teams are moving and this and that. But, for him to be able to go back and do something that USC hasn't done in years, I remember the USC days, the USC dynasty days. So, I think that's a feeling that they want to accomplish in the locker room, and they have a really good chance. When you have the best quarterback in the country, you're gonna put yourself in a good position to be able to win some games.
Yeah. Good QB, good coaching staff, I think, is definitely what he needs. He's obviously going to have a good kind of foundation now adding Cliff into the mix, so I think it helps kind of cool the room off a little bit.
I agree.
I like the kind of the respect and kind of it just felt like Cliff was really in your corner in the documentary during the season, kind of like just let Johnny Football be Johnny Football. Is that
he's one of the coolest, man. I think he's just a person that cares, right? Yeah. He's just when I was with him, he was 34 years old. This guy's, just coming out of, 5 years removed from playing for the Patriots. This guy had a really similar, off the field kind of like style as me in the sense of he likes to have fun. He likes, chasing girls or doing this or doing that. And, we really hit it off in that regard. We were from a similar area in the hill country of Texas, so that made it really easy to get along. And then more than anything that I can remember, I remember him times where you're coming in and you're a college kid and you're still fucking around, or from the night before, or you're still talking about bullshit. He always had a way to like get me laser focused and like find a way to like block out everything else that was going on out in the world and just, I got something for you here for an hour. Sit here and watch this, and I promise you we'll be better for it moving forward. So he had one of the best, ways of being able to, find a way to jump my ass without really jumping down your throat too much, if that makes sense.
Connected with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could tell in the documentary, obviously he loves you. You could see the way he just talks about you, the way he supports you, and kind of the way someone speaks about someone, you can really feel the words they choose, the tone, and you could feel it. So it's cool. It's cool to see that you did have a lot of these people in your corner. It's not like you were running reckless yourself. You had a team around you that was kind of allowing you and enabling you to kind of just be you, and it works. You speak of, Auburn and college. I saw you put out a tweet that Cam Newton was like your favorite college football player of all time, or the best college football player of all time.
Yeah, I think that one season is up there with the best of all time. I mean, 2010, I was a senior in high school. So these are like, I'm committed to Oregon at the time to go play for Chip Kelly, and Auburn played Oregon in that national championship game that year. So I just remember, sitting there watching every play of that season. I remember his run against LSU. That was like the first time you're like, whoa, this guy's just something different. So if I had to vote, I think Cam would be, he's going to be at the top of the list, if not 1-2 for me. And as far as, greatest college QBs of all times goes.
Yeah, I'd probably put you up there.
I think I'm somewhere on that list.
Yeah, you're definitely top three. In coaching statistics, do you think you and Cliff would have done damage in the NFL together? If he would have been behind you, if you would have been on the right team, maybe like Cleveland wasn't the right team, but that guy had a way of speaking to you. If he was your coach, you think it would have done differently?
Maybe. That was a guy who could definitely reel me back in when I was getting a little too far gone and too far lost. I was most upset is that we got to, I got to have my Heisman season with Cliff, coming back for the next year, and Cliff, takes the job at his alma mater at Texas Tech and, has to leave. And I remember me and him having that conversation. He calls me over to his house and he's like, listen, man, this is the last thing that I really want to do, but it's a dream for me to go back to Texas Tech and be a head coach. I'm not getting what I need here to be able to stay with you. And I've tried every which way that I can to be able to make this and go back and run this back again. I always appreciated that. It always lasted with me for a long time. And then, you fast forward to him being in the NFL. I probably went to 4 or 5 Cardinals games last year. I would text him throughout the middle of the week, give me some tickets. Normally, most of the time I'm sitting up in the suite with his dad, his family. So, our relationship is special, continue to be that way. As I'm in town in LA, I'll see him here while I'm in town. So I really hope he's able to, use this USC thing as a one, get a chance to get away from all the, and kind of all the scrutiny and shit he's been dealing with for the last year, and just be able to go focus on ball with a good QB who he will make better. So, I think it's looking up for him, and I'm definitely in his corner.
Yeah. In terms of like mobile QBs, you knew the game obviously at a different level for you to be able to have maybe the preparation you had and the input you put into the game and kind of the practice you put into the game, and just be able to go out there and have this natural born talent, this like athletic ability to scramble around and kind of just toss the ball where you want it and put it where you need it. But it seems like this like mobile, agile quarterback, like a Tim Tebow, Vince Young, these like college greats that were like super mobile, go into the NFL and they kind of have like a hard time moving around, or they have a hard time kind of adapting, or maybe just a hard time like following the flow of like an NFL game or an NFL pace. Do you think there is a difference? Do you think that there's a struggle? Is there even a connection there?
I think there's a size thing. I think there's just like a, durability, being able to go run like that all the time and take these hits. It's much different getting hit in college than it is in the NFL. For example, you have your college guys. You got 4 or 5 guys on the field that are just built different than everybody else out there for the most part. The one guys you don't want to get hit with or hit by, the CJ Mosleys of the Alabama, the guys in that world who are just really, really different. Now, when you think about the NFL, you take the best players from every single college around. So your pool gets, a lot bigger, a lot faster, a lot stronger. So when you get that mobile, aspect to your game and you take it to the NFL, it's very easy to get rolled up on. It's very easy to take a hit that knocks you out for a couple weeks. When in college, you can still get smacked around, but it's a lot less likely that it's going to knock you out for a long period of time.
Yeah. Obviously you're not the biggest dude. You had weight on you back then, but you were still able to kind of run around even in college, and people hit you and you get right back up. I don't really feel
I think I probably played at 5'11", 200 pounds probably my A&M years.
And didn't seem like it had an effect on you in college at all.
Didn't miss a game.
Yeah.
Never. That's one thing I feel very fortunate about with looking back on football is, I never broke a bone. I never had to have a surgery. I never tore an ACL. I had a couple shoulder injuries in high school, but other than that, I breezed through college and the NFL without really having to go under the knife or do anything, any rehab or anything like that, which is, a real blessing for sure.
Yeah. Through the documentary, a lot of people, and I want to keep like referring to the documentary because I think there's a lot of questions too. Like I'm hoping there's a part 2 because this was one of the best like football documentaries, not just because it was about you, but I think it's a story everybody wanted to know for a long time. Because you kind of like did, when you stopped playing, you kind of did like not really that many interviews, not really that much media. You kind of did.
I took a step back.
Yeah, you
did. There was a 2 or 3 year period in my life where I just sat back and kind of wanted to get back to a sense of being normal, of being away from the spotlights, being away from the big cities, and just popping in and out periodically, getting back to rebuilding relationships with my family. My sister's got 2 beautiful little girls right now. So I'm not really Johnny Football anymore. I'm more Uncle Jay than anything. So that's just, get away from all of it, keep it quiet, put some goodwill under your belt and be able to move forward and just be in a different spot in life and be happy with it.
Are you kind of at peace with football though? Like, do you still love football?
No, I'm at peace with it. I don't think I love the game in a play it type of sense. Even the last 2 years I've gone and played in a fan controlled, football league. And for me, it's felt like more of like, I get to play football with like a flair of wrestling maybe. It's not like all that serious. It's fun to still be able to go out there and do it. And when the ball leaves your hand, you kind of know where it's going to go or know it's going to be good. So like, I was able to get into it a little bit, but still not to the point of where I'm like deathly in love with it. I think more than anything, I love watching college football on Saturdays. I love watching NFL on Sundays. I love being the casual fan pretty much just like anybody else, but with a little more knowledge.
Yeah, I think there's a clip of you throwing the ball to T.O.,
Yeah.
right? What was that relationship like? How'd that even get up? How did Johnny Manziel throw a touchdown to T.O.?
It was pretty funny. My friend Bob Minery got me in this league, and
we had Bob on the podcast. It was an interesting day.
I bet it was. Bob is an interesting cat for sure.
He's late, missed 2 flights, bought him a first class flight from Boston. He missed it, shows up a day late, had no bag, shows up to my door. He was an hour late. And he goes, I got to go to the hotel. I got to shower. He's having a whole thing with his girl at the time. And he's like trying to go on Instagram live during the middle of the podcast. Great guy. Very interesting.
So Bob gets me to the league, and, me and him are friends. I'm still living in Scottsdale at the time. And, I'm kind of doing this thing where I'm like flying in for the games on like Friday, playing in the game on Saturday, and then I'm leaving on Sunday. So I'm pretty much, it's the same playbook from the year before. I'm only playing 20 snaps a game. So I'm just kind of here to, help build the league, play a little bit. But I also want to give other guys, we've had 2 kids from this league go on and play in the XFL. And then one kid that actually made it to a, Cowboys training camp and made it through the preseason, through the season. And, I think for me, I don't want to take away opportunities from guys who really, really want to be there. And I told them, the majority of players in the league, when I came there, I'm like, listen, this isn't about me anymore. I've had my time to shine. I've had my time to go, further my football career. I'm here to bring more eyes to the league. I'm here to be a good owner in the league, and I'm here to play a little bit when they ask me to. But other than that, I want to do nothing but bring knowledge. I want to do nothing but try and help you guys get to where you want to be, because I can see it in your eyes. You're hungry to try and keep going and playing ball. And I think, that phase of my life fizzled out, when I went and played in Canada. I got to the locker room and felt a lot of the same way that I did when I was in Cleveland. I thought to myself, maybe this isn't really what I'm meant to be doing, or something that I really love to do.
And did you go to Canada with the anticipation that you were going to use that to go back to the league, or were you still trying to figure it out?
I went to Canada because it was the best. It was the best offer for me at the time to get back to football in the quickest amount of time. The AAF or the XFL or any of these leagues hadn't started back up, and they weren't going to for another year and a half. So for me, it was looking at it and being like, I'm going to sit in LA for another year and a half and just work out and keep throwing at UCLA and, keep doing this whole routine. How's that really going to work for me? So, I went to Canada and, thought that was going to be a stepping stone for me to be able to, get picked up, get a chance to go to a training camp, have 2 good years up there and live in a country that I've frequenting quite a bit with the boy, for multiple years. I loved Toronto. I loved Montreal. And when I got a chance to go up there, I had that same feeling about like, I just don't love football like that. Mm-hmm. This football is different than the football I'm used to. So there's a learning curve for me. It's a different game.
Slower, faster?
I would say it's just like, it's wider. The field is wider. You have more moving parts. So I don't know if you can get anything faster than the NFL game. I don't know if you can get faster than that, or even anywhere close to it, but just a different game with more nuances and different like moving parts that you're not used to in the NFL. And I think when I went up there, I knew I had this feeling, that I wasn't in love with this. I feel the exact same way as I did whenever I was in Cleveland. Like I'm just feel trapped, I feel like I can't get out. And I think from there, I had a 2-year deal, so I would have had to have gone back the next year. I was kind of getting bounced around and getting traded based just off my name, really. So I get traded, signed with the Hamilton Tiger Cats to stay there for maybe 3 or 4 weeks, get traded to Montreal. And then when I get to Montreal, I'm there for 2 days, and they're like, all right, you're starting on Saturday. I haven't had any time to, not that I probably would have in the past, look at the playbook, but, a chance to get this offense under my system. I'm flying in, I'm doing press conferences, they're selling jerseys, they're doing this. And then I'm starting on Saturday. The game gets flexed to ESPN. Now this game is being shown in the States on every bar. And it was an absolute disaster. And I think after this happened, I'm like, I'm just being used as a pawn up here in the Canadian game to either get more eyes or to,
that sucks.
So I felt that, very, very like within everything inside me that's kind of what this is going on. Montreal was, a tough team situation for me to be in, especially coming in, halfway through the season and all the other circumstances. But I think the one thing I did get to enjoy out of being in Canada was just how awesome every single province was. Mm-hmm. Living in Old Port Montreal, it was unbelievably awesome to be able to go take a train and go to Toronto for the weekend if you were off, to go to Calgary. Calgary was one of my favorite places I've ever been. So I have a ton of love for Canada. I think it was one of the coolest life experiences that I got to do, even though the football side of it didn't work out.
How long were you there for?
I was there for probably like 6-7 months, 8 months maybe.
And then you just hit the eject button?
Hit the eject button, came back here to LA, and then, immediately pretty much after that went back to Texas.
Yeah. In terms of like Cleveland, like I don't think the documentary, and I don't think a lot of people understand the dynamic. Obviously you had that night in Vegas. The next day, you're gambling at a casino. People know it's you. You miss your flight. You say, let's rip it. You're there all night. You miss a PJ. You can't get back. And what happens? Like, does the team just text you Sunday morning, or like, did you still end up flying back?
I wake up Sunday morning and I'm just kind of like having this oh shit realization. Anything like your next day scaries that you're going to get after going out, and like, you know, seeing these texts kind of flood in. And for me at that time, I think I was just so shut off that I just took my phone, threw it in the drawer, probably went and grabbed some lunch and played some blackjack and was like, I'll make it back. I'll make my way back to Cleveland, you know, eventually, whenever that is. You know, and I think that was pretty much the last time that I did go back. So I probably went back from that trip, stayed for 4 or 5 days. And then the second that was over, I would have came straight to LA and never really left. You know,
So
I didn't want
phase you.
I didn't want anything to do with Cleveland. You know, I didn't want anything to do with being there. And it's probably wrong of me to think that way. And I think, you know, at that point in time, I don't think I knew how to let out, you know, how I was feeling, what was going on inside of me. And like every single thing was, you know, screaming that I wanted to get out of here. But at the end of the day, you know, the only way that I saw myself being able to do that was with self-sabotage and, you know, doing it by any means to get my way out of there.
So the experience in Cleveland, and obviously the experience going into Cleveland with this draft and whatnot, obviously in the documentary, they talk about, you know, it's 2 days before, you got your agent saying, Johnny, what are you doing? You're saying, yo, I was in the hills. You were definitely in the hills. What, like, are you not even at that point? Because I don't think a lot of people understand, like, are you just partying all night and then you just wake up and you're like, oh, damn, I was partying. I should probably let my agent know. Or is it something where you just didn't care and it was like, hey, now I'm awake and just to let you know I did this?
You know, I think I would, that was like my cry to like lean on somebody for help, you know, to be able to be like, yo, listen, I fucked up. This is what I did. Like, I want to right this ship. You know, I don't think in my like conscious mind that as I was sitting there going through these workouts and, you know, doing this stuff to be a first round pick, you know, I don't think in my conscious mind that I was, you know, doing this on purpose or that anything like that was going on. I think it was just, you know, I was struggling at the time with, you know, dealing with all the pressure and the fame and everything that comes with the position that you're in. Mm-hmm. You have so many people expecting things from you, so many people who are doing so much through you throughout that draft process that you feel like if you take one step out of line, you've let, you know, 15 people down, you know, that are riding for you and doing stuff for you every single day.
So did you feel the pressure even though you knew how good you were? Was it just the pressure of what was going on with you as a person and like the environment of going in the NFL, or was it you as a person? Can I be the same athlete in the NFL? Like, you know,
I didn't think about how my time was going to go in the NFL. You know, I didn't have, just like my time at A&M, you know, I didn't come in with goals to win a Heisman Trophy. I didn't come in, you know, I wanted to be a starter. I wanted to get a chance to play and I wanted to have fun doing something that I love doing. And, you know, when I got to Cleveland, I got through the draft process, you know, I just didn't feel that same way anymore. You know, I started to lose confidence in my ability and in myself when I got to Cleveland. That's where it started to change, you know, really from being a guy who's utmost extremely confident about any time he steps out onto a football field to being like, oh shit, is this something that I'm going to be able to do at a high level?
And going into Cleveland, like they talk about you not having receivers at like your pro day. Is that like a real thing? Did you really not have receivers? You really had to have your agent?
You know, some of these pre-draft visits are scheduled to where, like, you know, they got to go look at 20 quarterbacks, so they're bouncing around in this. So my workout with the Browns happened to be on Easter, like Sunday. So my guys who were like supposed to be there are like super Texan, like Christian. We're going to church, and then we have like they were just like, man, we can't ditch our family to be able to come do this. And you know, you're in College Station, you can't get college athletes to do it. You know, you can't, they're just like, can't just walk to the rec center and be like, hey, do you like 4 guys want to come run routes, you know, while the Cleveland Browns watch you. So, you know, we improvised and did the best we could. And obviously it didn't affect, you know, how things turned out because they ended up drafting me, you know, a month, 2 months later.
What's up with the story about the Texans? Did you really get hammered at the Texans?
See, I don't remember this. I remember going to the charity event and having a great time. A buddy of mine, Charlie Dina, who had been battling cancer, you know, from the time, you know, he's a young kid. He's 8 years old. I meet him whenever I'm going through my Heisman season, and he's really, really sick. And me and my family are making trips to Houston to go see him and his family. You know, kind of a bond that will last forever. I do his charity event with him that night in Houston. I remember going and playing River Oaks. You know, I don't remember anything, you know, breaking a couple clubs and throwing them in the pond definitely sounds like me, but, you know, getting hammered and taking your shirt off and running around a country club in the middle of Memorial doesn't sound like something that would have been on the radar, but I'm not putting anything past myself.
Yeah, maybe at that moment you did, but I'm glad at least breaking the clubs, throwing them in the lake.
Breaking clubs and throwing them in the lake is definitely going to be something that's happened. It's happened around these LA hills as well.
Definitely sounds like you. I think you did that when you're not playing golf, so I wouldn't put it past you when you're playing. What about golf? Like, we know you're a nasty golfer. Any big pro golfers you've played with, or like, what's your golf game been like lately?
Golf game lately is something that I need to get back into my life. It needs to be like a forefront and right in the like middle of everything that I'm doing. You know, I think it is. People ask me all the time, like, what do you love doing? What are you passionate about? What's your purpose in life? And I think this is something that I've found that it genuinely gets me out of bed every day, genuinely gets me excited to go work on my game, work on my craft. I have nobody to blame out there on the golf course except for myself. It's still an ongoing battle with, my problems with, getting angry or breaking a club or breaking this and breaking that. And, for me, dealing with that adversity on the golf course has transitioned well into my life. How I handle certain things. And I think for me, just being outside and being in the sun is so peaceful, and just like calming and so good and soothing for my mental health.
Who are your favorite golfers right now?
I really like Justin Thomas, a guy that went to rival Alabama. He has a hard time seeing some of those, some of the A&M Alabama highlights, but he's an awesome dude. We have a really cool relationship. And then Scottsdale is the mecca of golf. So, last year I got a chance to play with Tony Finau and John Rahm in the same week, back-to-back days, which was like, you think you're getting good at something when you go out and maybe shoot like a 68 or a 69. You're like, damn, I'm like able to do this. And then you go play with guys who do this for a living and as a profession, and it's like night and day how talented these dudes are.
Are you a scratch golfer?
I'm a scratch golfer, but I'm going to get beat by those guys by probably 8-10 shots every time I tee it up with them.
A lot of gambling on the course.
A lot of gambling on the course.
I've seen some stories.
It's fun. We kind of keep it as tame. I have a really, really good group of guys in Scottsdale. Different kind of than what you would expect from me. My group of guys, we have anywhere from 55 years old to, me at 29, 30.
Good mix.
So it is a good mix. I learn a lot from these guys, playing in these member guests and being around some of these dudes who are great business dudes, great family people. And we'd like to go have a good time. We travel across the U.S. playing. We go to Chicago in the summer. We'll bounce around and go to Florida here for a month or something and go just play golf every day. It's pretty much what the schedule is. Tee time at 11 o'clock, get out of there. It might be like have lunch.
Yeah, you're deep in it.
Deep in it every single day.
What's the biggest game you've done gambling?
Oof. Go to Midland, Texas, and Midland has the best gambling game that I've got in. We can play up to, $5,000-$10,000 per nine in total. So a little Nassau bet.
Yeah.
We can make it. You can have 20 bets going on at one hole that are all $1,000 a piece. So
so everybody's eating.
Everybody's eating. It's a very, very high stakes, good. Just go out and see who can make the most birdies and see if you can make some money. We do $1,000 birdies when we're out there in our game. So it can get pretty spicy if you play bad.
What's the beef with tape? What's the beef with watching tape? We see the zero. Like what's the beef with this?
Yeah, I remember going through and just telling that story. I know my iPad the second year had a lot more hours than zero on it. And I think, the last thing that I wanted to do whenever I was in the NFL, going through the season, I don't think I knew how rigorous, the schedule was, how long this training camp going straight into the season. You really have, a 17-game season plus your bye week, 18 plus probably another 4-week training camp. So for 22, 23 weeks straight, you're running through 7 a.m. in the morning, meetings, film until lunch, take your lunch break, go do a walkthrough, then you go to practice, you eat dinner, you watch film of the practice when you're done. So when all this would happen, I wasn't leaving the facility and jumping in my car and thinking I got to get back home and watch these film cut-ups, which is what I should have been doing at the time. I just didn't have that capacity with how I was struggling in life as it's on its own to be able to go do that and put that time in that I needed to, go through on these cut-ups or this and that. I think when I got out of the football building after having practiced all day, watching film all day, doing all that, to me, because it had worked for me in college, I felt like that was sufficient. I never wanted to take it to that next level. I never had somebody push me to that next level to be able to be like, yo, this is what you do. In my second year in the league, whenever Josh McCown came in to Cleveland, we started doing that together. We're eating lunch together. We're watching film. We're watching these cut-ups throughout the building. He's kind of teaching me and telling me, this is what you need to do. This is what I've seen from great guys, over the last 13 years I've been in the league, and this is what they've shown me to be successful.
And did it ever switch for you? Like, hey, dude, if I want to play at a high level, I need to do this? Or did you just still at that level, you were like, I'm kind of over this? Yeah,
I think, the second year there were bits and pieces where I felt like I was starting to get the hang of it. Our second game of the year, I started, we came in and won. And then for me, I immediately went back to the bench. And now this is kind of where my, mental health really started to kind of deteriorate to the point of where, one week I feel like I'm good enough at this. The next, I don't feel like I'm going to get the opportunity to do it. And I think I just started going off the rails a little bit when that started to happen. When you lose your confidence and you lose, your belief in the one thing that has got you here and got you to where you wanted to be in life, when you lose the belief in your ability, it's tough. And it's tough. I was 24 years old. I don't think I necessarily knew, how to take care of my mental health.
Yeah.
I don't think I really knew, how to ask for help. I thought probably at that time going to therapy or meeting with a sports psychiatrist or doing some of these things were lame, were things that weren't going to help me, that I'm just going and spilling my problems to somebody that's not going to, I just, felt like it wouldn't have helped at that point in time. Looking back on it now, I wish I would have gobbled up every single, bit of, help that I could have gotten, from everybody that was around me. Because at one point in time, you get to Cleveland, you sign with LRMR, which is, LeBron, Rich, Maverick, and Randy, which is, LeBron's whole marketing agency. So, I have all these unbelievable resources around me to be able to get help. And I just don't think at that time, I think my main thing for me was just suffer in silence.
You just did. I mean, obviously it was a little taboo back then to people I felt didn't really have the confidence to come out and say, hey, I need help, or hey, I'm not feeling this, because the way society's programmed and kind of supposed to be this tough guy. Obviously, we see that transitioning now where a lot of people are able to kind of release and have an outlet and kind of take care of this mental state, and people don't kind of laugh at it, and they understand that it's a thing that people need to actually work on. I feel like even back then, though, like what partying, do you feel that, like, did you even love partying, or was it something that you just did to fill a gap, or was it something like, do you have a regret about partying?
I don't know. Cause when I left Cleveland and I got cut, my main thing was like, okay, I want to do all of these things that I've seen. I want to go to Coachella. I want to go to Ultra. Yeah. I want to go to, Art Basel. I want to do all of these things. I want to run around Sunset. I want to drive in the same car as the guys from Entourage. Like I want to do
around Sunset.
I want to do all these things that I'd seen on TV, or like seen in movies, or like seen rappers, or like in music or hip hop or whatever. So I think, when I got cut, I'm like, I have this money, I'm able to do this. Like, I'm just going to go for it. And like the partying itself, I think, was me just trying to fill a hole, was just trying to continuously just, make things better, fleeting happiness, temporary happiness, for a while,
just fill the gap,
fill it, go be happy for those 2 or 3 hours that you're out at the club, or the couple hours that you're at the after party. Like, at least, you're not miserable 24/7, at least for the little bit of time that you are out doing that, you do feel better about what's going on, until it got to a point where, it got so repetitive. You're just like, you get to a point where you feel alone.
Yeah.
It's easy to do out here in LA. It's easy to do in the Hollywood Hills, where you're meeting people who, there's some good comment out here in LA, especially there's some young people out here who will like really get you believing that, that they care about you or this or that. And then you'll wake up one day and it'll all be gone. And when that happened, that was a tough realization of like people that you've spent money on, people that you've like given everything, a place to live, every time at the club, this, that, everything. When that all kind of goes away, you kind of, you feel stupid about yourself. You feel stupid about how you could let somebody do that. But if you don't know, you don't know. And at that time, I don't think I knew better.
Yeah, I think it's a hard realization that people don't have the understanding of, that LA and Miami, New York, these are nightlife centers that they're the melting pot of the world, of the country, of every kid that has dreams of being famous and a celebrity and an athlete. And, the minute you stop buying tables at a club, the minute you stop showing up with girls, the minute you stop showing you have money, those guys that are fulfilling your nightly needs of, yo, let's go out here, let's go get this table, let's go to this after party, they're gone. They're on to the next big fish. And it's just the game. It's the game of LA. And it's why LA swallows people up and spits them back out, is because people don't have the balance. Like, there's no balance of, hey, I got my friends when I go out and I'll go talk to them when I need, but I also have my go-tos that I can just go get dinner with. LA is a 24/7, you're always on. I remember we were out probably 7 nights a week at one point.
Probably.
And you were the king of the town, but you had a unique crew around you. Even when we went to Miami, I remember going to live and like you were the king. Like you, for a minute there, it was Johnny. Johnny football's coming.
Yeah,
and
it's fun when it's easy when you're spending money.
Yeah,
you know?
and you're taking care of everything. And anybody could see it. Like, yo, dude, a lot of these people are here for a minute. They're going to be gone. They're going to be gone quick.
Yeah, and I think I had probably 100 people throughout those times who will tell you that. I remember walking by.
I remember we talked about it at Nobu.
Yeah, but I remember walking by Maverick Carter, who's LeBron's marketing guy, and remember walking out of Hyde Sunset one night, and he's walking in, I'm walking out, and the last thing he kind of says is like, "Hey, don't spend all your money, Johnny." And I'm like, "Come on, this party's gonna last forever. This road goes on forever, and it never ends."
Hey, you were spending a lot of money.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
remember that. What were like the best celebrity parties you went to at that time? What do you think it was?
When I first came to LA in 2012, when I was still in college, I came out here for something. Bieber had some parties on lock for a while.
He had that
when
crazy house.
He did in
Toluca
Beverly,
Lake.
Toluca
like
Lake. Then he had one in Beverly Hills that was really, really
Crazy.
solid as well.
On the roof.
Yeah,
There's like 3 separate rooms.
Yeah.
That was next level. It was. I remember one night it was me, you. It was like Dan Bilzerian. There's still a photo. It's an unreal photo, and everybody's on the roof. I'm like, wow, this is a crazy night. You got Johnny Football in the corner with 10 girls. Bieber's like singing, and people that don't know Bieber don't understand how nice of a guy this guy actually is. The nicest guy in the world, most respectful, super humble to his friends, takes care of everybody, make sure you have a car to get home. The guy is like A1 too. But another guy who just the media loves to use the clickbait headline.
100%. The first time I go to that party, I'll never forget it. I'm sitting down talking with him, and he's talking to me about similarities and like being famous and doing that. Meanwhile, I have class like probably next Monday at A&M. Like I'm not supposed to be. That was a lot of, where my mind started to shift is like I couldn't believe that I was in a lot of these situations that I was in. I couldn't believe that I was becoming friends and sitting and talking with people like this. From where I'm from and where I grew up, this is the biggest pipe dream you've ever heard of in your whole life.
Yeah, but you lived it. You lived it. And I think one thing that you definitely did before anybody else in college football is you kind of brought that, a lot of people were famous and you had the Reggie Bushes and these types of people, but you brought it to a whole new level when it came to like celebrities, and you're in a Drake song and OVO's behind you and you got Bieber and all these people loved you. And it was like Johnny Football. And the documentary shows that, they do a good job at showing that. But I think even too, like in terms of celebrities, like were there a certain amount of celebrities that you liked going out with? So it like fueled you to want to come back to LA because like they were taking care of you when you would go out?
Yeah, I think my relationship with Drake probably brought me to LA for a little bit as well. I think I was, that was a dream come true for me to be able to meet this guy and be able to hang around and do some of the things that I did.
The GOAT.
It was just truly unbelievable.
Yeah.
Such a wild friendship, how people could be from completely different ends of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be able to hang, you'll be able to talk, you'll be able to, have real conversations about life, and like his friends are my friends forever. And, I still get to run into him multiple times throughout the year and still have a great relationship, still great friends. I'm gonna get a chance to go to the show tonight, which will be, awesome at the Forum. I got to go years ago when he was there, and this guy's blown up. He's gone from 3 shows in LA to now he's going to do 3, go to San Francisco for 2 nights and then come back and do another 3. So he's doing like 6 shows in LA. Guy's legitimate
He'll
goat.
forever be like one of the greatest musicians of all time.
But what people don't understand too is the person that he is, just like how cool he is, just how down to earth and like normal for a person that's in that big of a global scale to be able to fine tune that and have a crew around you that cares enough. I mean, there's so many moving pieces for that, and he's such a humble, nice dude. It's just out of this world.
The most humble. I mean, even with our relationship, like when Drake came to my SC Village paintball park, put me on the map, posted it, talked about it. Just he didn't need to do any of that. Comes into the club, he's sitting at the table next to me. He didn't need to do any of that. He's just A1 in everything he does. It's cool though, because a lot of people don't get to see that side of these celebrities and that side of these people, because they don't really get to have that relationship. They just get to see these clickbait headlines, and they really don't get to understand who these people are. You had a different dynamic though, because you were also doing it while you were playing. Yeah. I think that's what people really out of the documentary. It's hard to understand that, like, yeah, you were doing it, and yeah, you were Johnny Football, but you were still in school.
Yeah, like, I was leaving to go to Toronto during a school week. I'm going to hang and go to OVO Fest when we have class or a test or something like that. I was just like, I was completely enamored with like this lifestyle and like being famous and being able to go do things like this at the drop of a hat. I could get on Twitter and, hit one person up and you go to a show in Houston or you go here, or you go there. I mean, you're really just chasing the high of, being famous.
Is it true that Tom Brady reached out to you? Did Tom Brady actually like hit you up, or how did that relationship? What is that story about?
When I was training for pre-draft, I was training in San Diego with a coach of mine, George Whitfield, and another guy, Kevin O'Connell, who's now the head coach of the Vikings. But I was coming up to LA for a couple days, and this is how just like out of it I was at that time in my life, of where I just like where my priorities were and what I was focused on. I was much more focused on, this is around the time of when that NFL combine's coming up. You don't know if you're going to be able to pass this drug test. Stem from this trip. So I come up to Hermosa Beach for the weekend. Brady's training here in the off season. And I remember texting him, yo, what's up, man? I got your number from Kevin O'Connell. Would really, really be interested to just go and like sit and watch you work out for a day, see you and Edelman, like how this whole dynamic works. He texts me back. He's like, yo, we'll be at the field here at pretty much this time, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, for me, I don't think it clicked, like, of how awesome an opportunity that was to not only be able to, like, text him and have his number, get a response back, to be able to go watch this amazing thing. Where I was in that point in my life, I wanted to go to Hermosa Beach for the first time and get drunk. Like, so instead of going to watch this awesome freaking best quarterback of all time, the biggest legend of the game, the guy who's winning every Super Bowl, my mind wasn't on how do I go put myself in a position to be a better football player? How do I go suck up any amount of game from these guys on a football field for the afternoon? Mine was like, how can we go to Hermosa Beach and see some chicks in bikinis and like go take some fireball shots and like get loose for the day?
So instead of going to this Tom Brady, private clinic tour that you get a little expo going on, you just go and...
I just want to go hang with the boys and go to the bar and get some wings and drink.
So you never went?
Never went.
And did he hit you back like, hey, where were you today?
I don't remember at the time like exactly what it was, but I know that's kind of how like it went. It's kind of. But
you don't wake up like a day later like, damn, dude, I just blew off Brady.
It was always one thing to the next. I'd have one problem that like, leaked off into another one. And then you had this never ending train of just like going from one issue or one problem to the next. And I never really, until I got out, of football and I got away from LA and I got away from the things that cluttered my mind and made me, not be the person who I truly think I am, was I able to sit back and be like, wow, not only did you choose partying over this, but over this and over that. I think it's just like anything though, I was using that to fill holes and to, try and give myself any type of fleeting happiness that I never like sat back and like actually worked on myself to get to a point of where I could be, successful. So, there's so many things you have to do, the work that goes into it, the time, the dedication, the passion. There's so many of these things that you have to have in line before you can go out and have success. I didn't just wake up one morning, go play college football and wake up and end up on the stage in New York City with the Heisman. There was countless hours of hard work and dedication and determination that went into getting me to that stage. And, if you're not doing those things, you're never going to have the success that you want to have. It's impossible to live the tale of two lives and have it last. I was able to get by with it for a little bit, maybe that second season in college. But I wasn't able to do it for a third year. I definitely wasn't able to do it for a fourth year without putting in, rent's due. Rent's due when you're in a sport like that.
That's it.
And I think at the time, one thing that I never saw myself as, and I see myself differently than probably a lot of people do. I see myself as more of a normal dude who was really, really gifted and really talented and had a special gift that I grew into something. And then, I think I started to lose that, I lose that piece of me and lose, what made me so special. And from there, you turn to other things in your life. Other things come into your life that maybe bring you more joy, and then you gravitate towards those, or you get around the wrong set of people and you are who you hang around. So there's so many things that, happen to be able to pull me into a place that took me to the bottom.
I mean, but for you to obviously be one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time and win that Heisman, something of work had to go in before that first season, that freshman season. It's not just redshirting and destroying defenses with Mike Evans. You had something with you besides your ability too.
And I think it showed a little bit in the doc, but it was a lot had to do with it with my high school. I came to A&M strong as I could be. This program that we had in high school, this weightlifting program, the way that they were disciplined on us, this military style, I was very, very trained, ready to go into college football. So when you get to campus, I graduated early, so I started in January, and the spring semester was my first semester. I'm just trying to figure out my way in a new town, in a new place. I'm following the guys around me. I'm a follower at this point in time. But because of what I had in the discipline and the strength and work ethic that I had been taught when I was at Tivy, that first year there for me was pretty much a breeze. I was able to go through and work hard and fall into line really easy and follow some of the older guys who had been around there. Yeah. It all seemed really easy for me. When I started dealing with adversity in the spring of 2012, I had Kingsbury and these guys kind of like reining me in. They put me through a hellish couple months there where they were like, we're going to drill this out of you. We're going to make you run every single day after practice. Your lift group is not at 9 a.m. with the older guy. Like, you're going to lift at 6 in the morning. You're going to be in here. And they really drilled it into me. And, that 2012 season, I led the SEC in rushing with 1,400 yards, I think. That was all a direct reflection of me having to run every day before practice in 2 days. I had 10 gassers before practice, 10 gassers after. If we had 2 practices a day, you did 10, 20, 30, 40 gassers a day. So I think a lot of the stuff like throughout, how good my high school was, how good we were coached, that work ethic they instilled in me. And then getting there that next year and working harder, like there is a timeline there for, 2 years where I'm really grinding it and trying to figure out how to become a better quarterback, how to let this thing come out of my hand, how do we spin it better, how do we put more velocity on it. There was a time there for a long time, where I was grinding on it and really like excited to see, how good I could get at this. Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be as great as you were. You're not going to win a Heisman if you weren't a great player. That's not a popularity award. That's performance, that's skill. You obviously had it. It's not like, that's not, a negotiable, part of the story that people can kind of argue about or debate. I think everybody gets that. And it's unique too, because I'm glad that, like I said, I'm glad that the documentary shows how kind of impactful you were and how much impact you had on the school and the community and kind of just the sport, because just even that scramble QB offense and that air raid system and kind of how you operated, like just not really like duplicatable.
I think it was electric, man. Yeah. It was electric to be that young and to be able to run like that and be able to have this, I was this little white kid who had ties to rappers and like, it was such a different, crazy time in life. One that I look back and I enjoy, I'm thankful for, but at the end of the day, I'm very more, I'm a lot more comfortable sitting and being in the position that I'm in today.
Yeah. Did you really have $100,000 underneath your bed?
Oh yeah, 100%.
What's the most you think you made or had at one point underneath that bed?
That's probably pretty close. Yeah. It's probably around there.
We would get you $100,000, you go blow it.
I mean, we would spend it so fast. You'd spend it as quick as it was coming in for the most part. But, for a while you'd sit there and let it stack up and be like, all right, what are we going to do next?
And you just thought like it's gonna be forever.
Like travel. Let's go to Miami. Like let's go do
courtside
something.
Game.
Like, let's go watch the Heat play. We went go to a finals game that the Heat were playing in against. I think they played the Spurs that year. Like we were just
Johnny football.
Do we have class tomorrow? Oh yeah, I forget. We're taking online classes. So I mean, there's no class. We're not in practice. Your workouts are done.
Unreal.
Why not?
In terms of the NFL, who do you think like the top 3 greatest QBs of all time are?
Well, it's Brady is at the top for certain. I think pure quarterback, you have to put Peyton Manning in there as well. And then, I think you can take it back to the older days and go with a guy like Joe Montana or, those guys are the legends of the game. I think there's quarterbacks who have played who are just like unbelievably like talented. Like I think Michael Vick is probably one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever, step foot on a football field. I think Lamar Jackson is one of the most talented football players to ever step foot on a football field. I think we have a couple guys playing in the NFL right now that are going to go down as a top 5, 10 quarterbacks of all time when it's all said and done. I think Mahomes and Burrow will go down.
Mahomes is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, what he's done already,
Air raid system.
Played with Cliff.
What makes him so good?
His ability to process everything that goes on, is just, uncanny. He's still able to move but he's not really a runner. You're going to see him running when he needs to. I was very much, more of like a run first kind of guy rather than throw it. He's looking to sling it. His defensive awareness and what he does on Sundays is just, he's sharp. He got with a really, really good coach and Andy Reid and helped him bring out the best potential in you.
Got a dog.
I think that's something to say though about like if you get with the right guys, how one person can change your life to be able to elevate your game and take it to a place where you didn't think it really ever could.
Tap that potential.
It's really what it's about because I think Cliff did that with me, and I think Cliff got a chance to do that with Pat as well. And then you get him with a guy like Andy Reid, and then you really, really get to see his whole potential come
blossoms, and next thing you know, he's unstoppable.
Yeah, you're a superstar.
Yeah. In terms of like college football, just to take it back there real quick, we see a guy like Evan Stewart at Texas A&M, next level, right? He's gonna be
5-star, awesome.
It's gonna be insane. He's obviously got a lot of potential, a lot of talent. A&M's got a good team. They got crazy recruiting. What's your take on like Deion Sanders and this whole like movement behind Colorado and kind of the social aspect now with coaches, and kind of walk me through where you look at it now, seeing, what you went through and now what you're seeing now.
I think with what you're doing in recruiting nowadays, a lot of it is financially motivated now. I think for what like Deion does at Colorado, to be able to show the ins and outs of what it's going to be like, what it's going to be like when you get here, is amazing. If you were a kid and you're watching these videos and stuff and you're seeing it and you're like, damn, I really like this vibe. I really like the way he coaches. I would have never got to see that whenever I was getting recruited. I would have walked into the stuffy meeting room, shook your hands with the coach or the person who's recruiting you, and you kind of like get to see an inside talk for maybe like 5 minutes, and then you're whisked away and it's over. So I think the way that the game's changing now, to be able to do stuff like that is going to help them get players. I think it's going to help them get players that they probably shouldn't have, but they're going to get them anyway. And Deion's just a legend. I think the way he carries himself, his messages that he speaks to his team, is all about, growing boys into men. And we're going to play football here at a high level, but you need to do the other things as well at a high level, or you're not going to play here, and I'm not going to play you. I'm not going to put up with it.
Yeah, just from social, holding everybody accountable. It's cool. It's cool to see a coach that, it's about the respect and the message first, not the player, where, like we see in the documentary, I think the school would have been scared to sit you or, hey, Johnny, you're benched, regardless of your behavior, regardless of your performance, and it's cool. I think that's like this new era. You have to have it, especially with recruiting, with kids getting money and the way it's working now. It's going to be chaos in a few years.
Yeah, like I saw a video, I think, of, Coach Prime, and like he's walking in the locker room and he's talking about how dirty it is. And that's like one thing that like, when you get to a college locker room, you just have a bunch of guys who are now on their own. They don't feel like they don't have their moms there anymore. And that was like always the biggest message. So when I see, him being like, listen, your mom's not walking through that door today. Clean up after yourself. Take care of this place that you're at right now. It's one thing that like, probably when I was there that I would have been like, like, come on, coach, busting our balls, like whatever. But, at the end of the day, the little things go on to making really good teams, really building really good character, and being able to set you up for, life in the future. All the things that you think when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you really don't know shit. So to have a guy there that's teaching you life lessons like that and stuff is, is what you want. And there's plenty of guys like that around the country. And you just have to find one that's, special.
Yeah.
I got that with Cliff. Other guys get that at other places. And
is there any regret you have from playing, or any regret you have from the college experience, the NFL experience, that you kind of do still think about? Or are you kind of really good at just kind of letting it go now at this point?
I think I've let it go more now from this point. I think for a while, a lot of it was like, damn, should I have stayed in college for 2 more years and, had 2 years of eligibility left to play? I miss more than anything putting on the maroon and white, going and playing in that stadium at Kyle Field. Just being able to get a part of that whole SEC game day, Kyle Field, College Station, A&M atmosphere. It's just like nothing to it. I never got a rush like that. I never got a rush like running onto that field again, ever. So the battle that I had with myself for a long time was, should I have stayed 2 more years? I know what I was doing on my personal side of things. Mm-hmm. I know how I was kind of just like barely cutting by and getting by in school. So I wasn't at a place to be able to go back and take those 2 years seriously enough to be able to, really have ever got a chance to make it to where I did.
Yeah.
So that was a long, years of battling with myself that I had to deal with.
Yeah.
So regret's a thing for me now where I have it a little bit here and there at pieces, but it's it's more regret on how I let my teammates down. It's more regret on not coming back and working as hard as I did my first year at A&M, my second year. It's my regret of damn, did I cost us a national championship at A&M? Could I really, really change the program forever and ever and ever, where you see a national championship banner or numbers on your stadium? So my regret more comes with things like that, how I treated people who treated me amazing. It's not so much singularly focused and selfishly focused on myself as it was at one point in time. I feel bad for the people that I've let down. I have regret of the people that, rode for me really hard as fans, as coming to Cleveland and this and that, and that it didn't work out. So, my regrets are more in how I worked, how I was. But, I was caught up in being this bad boy, party boy, who was also really talented at throwing a football.
But you're so sound about it, and you have such a graceful tone now. It seems like you really have a good depth and understanding of where you are in life and what you did and what you went through. And I think a lot of people can kind of resonate with that. It's not like you went through this process and you're, selfish or, you're very about you at this point, where most people would, or kind of pointing the finger. So it's very healthy, I think. And I think that's part of finding that really good, healthy state of mind where you feel good about everything and you have this peace and you have this understanding of what went right, what went good. Because I think that's where people kind of tend to not be able to let go and then move on to that next chapter. They keep holding on to it and they can't really expand. So it is good to see in person, especially as a friend, that you're so mentally kind of clear about this and where you're kind of going now, that trajectory. What's next for Johnny Football?
Yeah, I think I'm going to, Scottsdale is a place that's changed my life just from the golf aspect, friends. When you go through a period of time where you're depressed and you don't see sunny days, for me to be able to go outside, play golf, be in the sun, be around people who care about me. My dad comes out 6-8 times a year. We get a chance to rebuild our relationship and play golf. My sister, my mom, they love to come out as well. So Scottsdale's home for me. I'm going to be there playing golf, hanging with my family, hanging with my friends, and continuing to do things in business, do things in life, continue to take this golf company, Cactus Hack, that we started, and continue to try and do things in life that I enjoy doing.
You're opening up a bar, a restaurant?
So I got a bar coming in College Station that'll be opening this year for the first game of the season. Insane. Which is awesome.
You gonna be there?
I'll be there a little bit. I'm gonna try and stay out of some of those settings a little bit more than I have in the past, just because I think it's better for me and better from where I'm at. I'm at a point now after watching this documentary where I have a very firm and solid vision of what's next and how I want to carry myself and how I want to continue to grow in life.
Amazing.
That's what it's all about. I'm past the area of where I feel like I know everything, or I feel like I've, learned enough to be able to continue on and just stop all of that. I want to continue to push myself, learn more, and grow in life as a person and as a human being more than anything else.
No, it's amazing. It's good that you have this mental clarity of where you want to go. I think for you to be the level and the athlete and perform at the efficiency you did to win a Heisman Trophy, you can do anything you want in life. You can build any company. You could be successful in any sport. You could be successful in any realm of business. And it's exciting to see you now take that energy, that work ethic, and kind of apply it to where you're going now and rebuild. It's a next chapter.
Yeah.
We all have our own chapters. Now you write the next one.
Yeah. So we got to close one with this one, and now we're open more and excited what the future holds. I'm excited to be here today and be able to just to, be happy, hang with a friend, catch up and just talk the shit about life and everything else that's going on.
Amazing. Johnny, it was a pleasure to have you. I'm glad people can kind of see who you really are and kind of get a good feel. I feel like this conversation was amazing. You touched on everything. I'm appreciative for everybody who kind of showed support. Everybody was so happy to hear that you were going to be on this. So it's exciting. Make sure you guys subscribe. This is the Jaxxon Podcast. This is Johnny Football.